This is ContactTalkRadio.com. Consciousness in action. And you are taking action into your consciousness by tuning into Contact Talk Radio.
And on TuneIn.com, Ping.fm, and UpSnap Mobile.
Contact Talk Radio.
Welcome to Life Mastery Radio with Todd Allen and Jackie Bailey, the show that dives into the science of higher consciousness with inspiring topics such as abundance, intention, health, manifestation, love, and transformation. Join Todd, Jackie, and their guests of leading authors, speakers, coaches, and entrepreneurs weekly at 10 a.m. Pacific. Learn to live a peaceful life with intentional mastery. It's all right here with stories and messages to support your well-being and most evocative dreams. Now, here's your hosts, Todd and Jackie.
Hey, it's another groovy day, and most of you know, at least the regulars, why that is. But I'm going to tell you anyway. When I get up in the morning, I decide, before my feet hit the floor, I decide it's going to be a groovy day, and then I take off into the day, and it is 99.9% groovy all day long. Now, something might happen, something might change, but I always just think back. And whether I need to take a break, get away from it, think about it for a minute, I can always turn things around. It works great. And I suggest you try it too. And it doesn't have to be groovy. It could be great. It could be awesome. It could be anything. But if you start your day out that way, it works out that day will end up that way. I promise. Try it. You'll like it. Mikey, you like Life cereal. You'll like that. As always, I have my co-host with me today, Jackie Bailey. Jackie, guess what? I did it. I finally got the live feed shared before the end of the open.
Wow.
It's getting easier because of the share button.
Yeah, but see, what I worry about, though, is that you hear the sound. So does it automatically mute when you put it on from that link?
Yep.
Okay, nice.
Yeah,
I'm always worried about that. What if I put it up there and then we start hearing feedback?
I think Zoom's smart enough to figure out the mighty Zoom, have control of the output to your speaker. So nothing else can bleed over into that. And I think that's the way that works.
Okay, cool. Nice.
How are things going, Jackie? You are busy. You've got back-to-back things going on today. Just review a little bit. Let's see. You had something in the morning, then you jumped on here, and then you got to jump somewhere else.
Yeah, you know what? It's all about meeting people. And it's all about finding collaborative solutions to problems. And so I belong to a mastermind group now that's parents and kids and coaches of kids and people who help families and support families. It's called Family Circle and Legacy Builders. And so before our radio show, I'm in that group every Tuesday morning talking with them. And today, though, specifically, there is a book launching in which I am a contributor to. And I've written a chapter of No Problem Parenting book. And so it's launching today. So right after this show, I got to get over there and all the authors are going to be interviewed today in the launch. And the book is free today on Kindle. Wow. And I put all of that information in our Life Mastery Radio Facebook page. So all of our listeners can go there and get their free copy today of No Problem Parenting and read my chapter, which is How to Save Your Silenced Child.
You know, I was thinking about this earlier. One day you're going to be able to be an expert on networking.
Oh, gosh, I hope not.
You're just every place, and I get it. I mean, that's how you get to meet people and find out cool stuff, right? I think that's the biggest bonus is you get to meet. And I think that's probably how you met our guest today is just through networking. And tell you the truth, I am very impressed because a lot of the guests that you book come from that networking and they turn out to be some really cool people that are on the cutting edge of their own becoming and to help people in their own becoming on their life mastery journey. There, shameless plug.
That's right. You're right, Todd. There's so many wonderful people out there who don't get their time in the spotlight, right? Because they're not a big name. They don't have 20 books out there. And so they're sort of missed. But they're doing magnificent work in the world and supporting families in tremendous ways and supporting everybody in tremendous ways. And so I'm delighted when I get to meet someone like several of our guests, including the one today. It was Brenda, and look forward to talking with her. And that's what it's all about, right? That's what I teach is how to have conversations, how to communicate with people, how to find their story when you talk to them, how to find something interesting about that person that's going to be inspirational for your own life. And that's what it's all about.
The cool thoughts and ideas. Yeah, that's
what I teach is how to have conversations, how to be inspirational. Now getting feedback.
It did do it to you.
It did. No, that's you. That's just you. Did. No, that's you. That's just you.
I closed it. It might be Brenda.
Did. No, that's you. That's just you.
I think it might be fun.
Did. No, that's you. That's just you. I think
that's fun. There we go.
Okay. Yeah.
So it does. Your fear was presented to us. It was
valid.
But we got it sorted out. So however we did that, it all works. I want to remind our listeners that today's show page, I heard it's you so many times.
I was hearing voices.
I'm believing it. It's all about you. I want to remind our listeners that today's show page is at www.lifemasteryradio.net or .com. And any links that we talk about, we have our show page up for today's guest with links to her website. There are some other things that might pop up that we might have to put there as well. So check it out, share it with a friend. While you're there, sign up for our newsletter. Jackie creates a newsletter every week, and it highlights who's been on the show and who's coming on the show. And of course, her infamous blog post about the show we just did. And she always gleans great insights and always picks up on things that our guest says or directs us or talks about. And it's really cool to preview. So you can sign up for the newsletter. You can also check out my book, 6 Keys to Life Mastery. There's a link there to Amazon. You're going to love it. It's not too healthy, and it's a great read, and it will get you started on your very own life mastery journey. Jackie's book is there. She has a couple of them now. Well, 3. Are you up to 3?
Today is the 3rd one. Yes.
That is so cool.
Yeah. Well, you know what? It's so fun to be a part of these compilation books now because you get to hobnob with some amazing ideas, right? Just like we were talking about. And we've been putting together a compilation book with our students for quite a while. It's hard to get those kids motivated to write a chapter. So we're working on that, but we're excited about some point being able to announce that we've got the voices of today's youth ready to be published. So anyway.
Yeah, I couldn't even begin to imagine if I had the opportunity as a teen to do something like that, the seeds that it would have planted in me as I continued on with life and my reactionary life, just reacting to things and not being proactive about Very cool. Well, we've done all of our housekeeping, and now let's talk to an awesome person about some awesome stuff. And I think that you booked her. Booked her. There you go. Take it away, Jack.
Thank you. And I'm not even sure that I'm going to do her justice by the introduction I have, because the more I talk to Brenda, the more I realize, oh my gosh, she's even more amazing. She's even more amazing than that. So anyway, you're going to have a fun journey with us today as we discover all of her amazingness. But she is an award-winning best-selling author of many books. She's got Bully-Proof Yourself and Your Kids. She's got Blessing Mistakes. Tusky's Travels, which is coming out as a movie. It's the screenplay is in process. And Grumpy to Grateful. And then today we're going to be talking mainly, perhaps, about the Kid Code, 30-second parenting strategies. Her book, this one, is endorsed by Jack Canfield. And he says, I absolutely love your work. Your book is phenomenal. Everyone needs this book. You got to get it because Jack Canfield said. And readers' views lauded as the latest and greatest parenting book. don't we all wish we had a manual when we were parents? And this could be it. So Brenda has an associate degree in holistic nutrition. She's married and has 3 grown children and 6 grandchildren. Mm-hmm. This means, Brenda says, that when the families get together, it's really loud. And a place where kids bring everyone to life. She says that when she's not helping people find their joyful, harmless nature, she likes playing with her kids or grandkids. She likes nature, gardening, photography, and enjoying the wildlife that frequent their little plot of land. She's going to have to tell us where she's from in the world. I think it's someplace up north in Canada. So welcome, Brenda Miller. It's delightful to have you here.
Thank you so much, Jackie and Todd. I was so excited to be here, and in this kind of company, especially. Todd, I love your idea about before you jump out of bed, self-regulate into your nature, naturally joyful nature. And Jackie, congratulations on the collaboration of the No Problem Parenting. I can't imagine not having many parenting books to help in our absolute most important job. So yay for you.
Yeah, different thoughts and ideas. And congratulations to you, because during the pre-show, we found out one of your books is being turned into it's not a screenplay, I guess. Would it be a screenplay? I guess so.
Tusky's Travels has 15 stories, and it stems from the strategies in the Kid Code, which has 100 parenting strategies, all designed, most designed to dissolve stress in 30 seconds. And Tusky's Travels is kind of that way that kids can self-regulate in a stressful situation or meet challenges and bring them back into their clear and joyfully harmless nature. So it's right now.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
It's in Hollywood. It's being written for the screen. It's not been sold yet, but that's their next step.
So these are actual depictions of putting the strategies from the Kid Code in a story format. Is that what I get? Yes,
because Tusky is a wise young elephant, and he travels around the world with a little bit rowdy but very lovable crew of critters. And they learn something about the world, but mostly they learn about the amazing self.
Mm-hmm. But that is available to purchase right now.
It's at Freeze and Press, and it'll be out in a few weeks.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Yay. Well, congratulations. And for you, and you've got another one that's coming out soon too. Grumpy to Grateful. Is that another one that's in the process of?
Yes, that one's co-authored, and that's how to grow your and your kids' gray matter and so much more. Because the interesting thing about gratitude, I was reading I did a lot of research because I wondered why I was grumpy. And so I wondered, okay, so what would gratitude, what does it do? Why do I want to spend my time in gratitude? And I realized that through the research that people like Dr. Joe Dispenza, who has scientific proof that gratitude increases your immune system for several hours. There's Psychology Today. There's many, many really good sources that show you that actually just a few minutes of feeling grateful inside of yourself will dissolve toxic emotions. Which I just find those kind of things amazing. Like you can just do that simple practice, and without you even knowing, it will start dissolving toxic emotions that you have in yourself. And I find that to be a doable miracle.
It's totally verified. I think Stanford University, some of the major universities have done studies, and it boils down to just the release of oxytocin and serotonin in our brain, just with a simple practice of gratitude every day. As a matter of fact, in my book, I wrote that gratitude is probably the master key to all the keys in your life mastery journey. I think it is, and it's proven, and people have known about this for millennia, and now science is coming to say, hey, this is the deal. Back in the day, Brenda, when I was getting sober, I was playing around with gratitude, and one day I was playing around with a couple of words, and I came up with a new word.
Oh yeah, what is it?
I smashed gratitude and beautiful together and came up with gratitudeful.
That is absolutely a nutty word.
But it's true, right? I mean,
love it.
if you can find gratitude in beauty, and beauty is everywhere around, I mean,
Absolutely.
that's gratitudeful.
It is just great.
So you should submit it to the Oxford Dictionary people and see if they'll approve it for you.
That's funny. I forgot all about that until just now that from this discussion. So yeah, it's pretty cool.
Well, I can't wait to read your books. That's for sure. I was just thinking as we were talking about gratitude. So Guy Finley, he's a spiritual teacher, and he says that life is given to us freely.
Mm-hmm.
And when I heard him say that, I realized, wow, I'm ungrateful and I need to change that. And, I remember in the research that I was doing for that book, positive psychology said some amazing things about even it's almost as good as medication, antidepressant medication. Isn't that so amazing that they
is amazing.
Oh, they've found autism and many other things with it by introducing kids to a practice of gratitude. And it's a simple thing to do. It just takes a little bit of conscious awareness. And, whether you do it before you go to bed at night or in the morning when you get up or all throughout the day, the return on investment is huge. It's amazing.
So Brenda, is one of the strategies that you mentioned in your book, is there some way that we as parents can teach our children gratitude? Because it's probably not something that they're necessarily born with, right? And this is my opinion. I think if parents aren't stressing gratitude by saying thank you or please, or some of those courtesy type words, perhaps the kids don't learn them and integrate them naturally into their personalities. Maybe I'm off my rocker, but so do any of your strategies deal with how do we teach our children gratitude?
Well, many of them do, really, I think, because one that comes to mind is when I used to have to drive my grandkids long distances, I loved that I have a TV on the back seats of my car. And but they wouldn't love when it was over, like when we had to shut the TV off and we had arrived at our destination. And not that I let them use it all the time, but there were times where it felt necessary to have that break, everybody to be quiet. And so I used to say to them, so you know how you feel right now as you get to do this, watch the TV. And they say, yeah, I feel really good. And they talk about that for a minute. And I said, and so how do you want to feel when we get there and turn the TV off? Do you want to have gratitude, or do you want to have attitude and have a temper tantrum? And they always say, well, we want to feel good. And I say, well, why do you want to feel good? They'd say, use their little brains and say, wow, because it feels good. Because a temper tantrum, you can't put a lid on lava. Once it starts, it's going to blow itself up and out. And so that was one strategy. And another one for that was, I invite parents and your listeners to remind themselves that entitlement is very painful. And we really have raised an entitled generation, not intentionally, but because we didn't want them to suffer. We wanted to give them everything. Yeah. And that's highly reversible because it's a painful state to be in. And so we remind all our parents to ask the kids to bring to mind somebody in their school that's very entitled, and then notice, do they look happy? And notice, are they sure that they're right all the time? They should get what they want. And notice that they demand and dump and they complain. Just notice these things. Notice they're thankless. Notice they want special treatment and they deserve more. And then most importantly, notice that that's us when we feel entitled.
Right.
And it's like, there's an Estonian proverb that who does not thank for little will not thank for much.
Right.
And so as we begin to teach the kids, use these strategies ourselves. That's what I encourage parents to do, because until you can feel the difference they make, they won't make any difference. And so I encourage everyone to feel thank you. In fact, do it now if you'd like. Don't just say thank you, feel it. And then do that all day long.
Yeah.
So
for religious reasons, when our kids were younger, we used to fast once a month.
Yeah.
And that meant going without a couple of meals, within a 24-hour period. And by the end of that, as that was waning to a close, the kids would be like, I'm so hungry. They'd be walking around going, I'm so hungry. I'm so hungry. And I had an epiphany one day and I said, you know what? The words I'm hungry are no longer allowed. You can only say I'm thankful. So even if you're feeling hungry, you have to say I'm thankful. I don't want to hear the words hungry. And so they started doing that as a rule, and it changed everything. It used to be that then when, we broke fast and the dinner was served, I mean, we just dive in. But after that, it was just like, yeah, I could eat. It really changed it. Just so the word, maybe saying the words is the start to beginning to have the feeling. Because it didn't happen overnight, but it was a process until they finally just realized, they start to come to me. I could hear them going, I'm really thankful. But it was something they became aware of. And I think that's what changing any behavior is, just being aware of it, first of all, right? And then take small steps to change it.
That's so good. That is definitely step one. That's such an awesome strategy. I use the one I teach is you switch the statement. So, for example, if my hip hurts, I switch to thank you for everything that hip has done for me, and feel that. We teach the kids, I don't want to go to school. Okay, now feel if it's true, and give an example of why it is true that you actually do want to go to school. Every time it works, they go, well, I get to see my friends. And then they go into a state of gratitude.
Yeah,
so
fascinating.
Yeah, that's, even I use that. If I don't want to go to work, I just simply say, well, how is it true that I do want to? And then the negative feeling just dissolves. And I realize, wow, there's a lot of really good reasons. We also encourage everyone to be their own Tibetan monk in their own home, and the way we do it is inhale love, exhale gratitude, inhale patience. Exhale compassion, inhale caring, exhale appreciation. And now that's not getting rid of gratitude, because we've kind of been taught that we should exhale our when on the exhale, we're getting rid of our negativity. But I'm saying, no, I'm saying we're spreading love and compassion and gratitude and appreciation all over when we exhale.
During the pre-show, Brenda, we got into the discussion of, we're evolving very quickly. And I've been thinking about, yesterday I came across a discussion group that posed the question, what has changed? Why is it that kids from the 50s had so much respect and appreciation for their parents, for one, and just overall, and here we are now and I think it has a lot to do with what we're talking about. It's just this expanding evolution that we're going through. We're not able to keep up. Is that something you can expand on?
I agree with what you've said. And I'd add to that something I learned about kids. So they're teaching us what they want us to teach them. And how I would share that is, I lost my belly laugh and my playfulness. And I wondered, well, where did it go? And could I get it back? So I observed kids. I noticed, well, they've got theirs. That's why I observed them. And I noticed, they're in their nature, like they're genuine or creative or inclusive, they're innocent, they're joyful. Yes, they have that other side, but that's a lower part of our nature that we all have, but it doesn't need to operate us. But it profoundly changed my life when I realized they don't register and aren't informed by color of skin, the kind of car you drive, what clothes you wear, your status in the community. They don't register that. And now I realized, wow, that's because it's not important.
Right.
And so how would we know what our nature was? Like, how would we know that wisdom and playfulness and compassion, all those states that I regularly refer to, that how can that be our nature when we act outside of that so often? So what I realized was I feel natural when I'm in those states. And by the way, I taught conscious conflict resolution in 6 countries as a career, mostly because I needed it, because I was so stressed out all the time. I had to figure out, is there a way to change this crazy way I live? And then when I started watching kids, I realized every time I'm in a negative state, I don't feel natural. Like, and when we're in a negative state, we know this. We waste mind space and we waste our energy on things like getting even or being mad. And, really, like, who was it, John?
Resentment.
So true. And I remember John Southard, I think it was, said, the only people with whom you should try to get even are those who've helped you. And yeah. And so we spend time in that direction. Why has it changed so much? I call my work instant evolution out of stress, because stress is, in my opinion and experience, optional for more than a few seconds or a few minutes. Once you learn that, have the experience of what your nature truly is, the nature that is meant to operate you, and understand how to dissolve stress. And so to your point there, Todd, is what happened, what changed was that we more forgot our nature and more bought into what would make me happy. And none of the things, none of those things will make me happy.
Yeah.
None of the material things so far can make me long-term happy, but I can make me long-term happy, because that is natural to me and it is my nature. And how I proved that was with every single stress. I'm not kidding. I once bought a golf counter. I'm not a golfer, but to click and count how many times I was upset in a day. By noon, I clicked it so many times I threw it away. But, I had an interesting childhood. I spent some of my formative years hiding in a cupboard from people who could do no differently than they did. They didn't know. They didn't know what they didn't know. And what a gift to me, because I went on into the world so stressed, I had to find out what was going on. And then I had someone I love attempt suicide twice, once in front of me. That was such an amazing, horrible experience. And you can understand why I would say it was horrible, because the horror, the guilt, the stress. But in that moment, it was amazing, because everything that was unimportant fell away. And I spoke to him while he was being sewn up, both arms, wrists to elbows, in the hospital. I spoke to him out of a place of pure love and assured him that nothing mattered except him, the person. And, it's hard to listen to me talk about that. It's hard to hear it. It was really hard to live it. And it was also a blessing, because I realized that stress comes because I'm not aware of my nature, and I'm trying to get de-stressed with something other than what will cause me to be joyfully harmless. So I set out in the world to try to discover almost the question you posed, Todd, is what changed? Why at one generation did it seem like we were respectful and we didn't talk back, and then now we have generations that seem very disrespectful and do talk back a lot. And we've evolved into material and into technology, and we've evolved out of self-regulation.
Like a disconnect, right? They're totally unplugged from, I love your answer, of unplugged from nature, from our natural way of being.
Interesting. So do we know why that happened? I mean, technology, I think, has created a lot of different skill sets, but it also has created distractions from us. Could that be part of it? I don't want to paint a bad picture on technology, but so many, I struggle to understand why kids, so many of them in the past 2 or 3 years, have decided to take their own lives. And so is there, what can we blame that on? What's happening that they're just deciding to do something so permanently destructive? Do you know?
The stress is so great, it looks like that's the way out. But if we understand what consciousness is under the most stressful situations are the possibilities for us to achieve our nature, like happened to me in the hospital. And so all they're looking for is exactly what we all want, which is connection. We support everybody when we're connected to them. and they can't find it. Why can't they find it? You've already addressed it, is because of the disconnect. And our job, I think, is to help them connect. That's all we're doing, I think, isn't it really? With these strategies, period, we're reconnecting.
To be aware, I think, is the direction I get from the kid code, is just to be aware, begin to pay attention to what it is that we're paying attention to, right? What is tripping us offline? What is creating this stress?
Yeah, it's belief systems. It's not if we're in our nature, well, then we will respond to this moment and to this moment and to this event and to this event. If we're out of our nature and into being guided by a belief system, an ideology, a thought that's stored in our memory bank, that's been pulled forward to try to solve this moment, it will never work. But if we're in our nature, it just comes naturally to
resolve it.
It does, and be clear. You're very clear when you're aware,
or at least have the tools. I think stress too manifests in other ways in the body too, right? I mean, we pack this stress around, and that causes different system malfunction and systems to not function correctly. And right, I mean, stress is it's a major problem in society today.
And it pushes us into becoming conscious. That's the good thing about it.
That's
right?
True.
Because with enough of it, we'll do something. And your listeners, I'm sure, appreciate that part of the reason they're listening is because they have been pushed into terrible amounts of stress. Like, there's so much instability in the world that there's this free-flowing anxiety, this underlying level of unease. So we need this work now more than ever.
Yeah, I lived it. Becoming, discovering that I was an alcoholic was me on my knees, and everything that I thought was stressing me out and the alcohol was relieving me was a huge wake-up call. Huge wake-up call.
Yeah, Todd, it's so true. Those words, if they can be taken in by everyone, it is a wake-up call. Every stressful moment is a wake-up call. And I know with addiction, I have a program on addiction, because they're so stressed and looking for something to fill what they think is a void, make them feel better. Addiction is an easy pathway that appears in front of them. But I'd have to say, as far as I can tell, addiction has never delivered what it promised, not even one time.
Nope. It's and it's it's progressive. It gets worse and worse and worse until you reach the point of you're on your knees. There is nothing else but to ask for forgiveness. And well, for me, it was start to work a program, start to work those 12 steps, start to discover who I was and what made me tick and how I could resolve that.
Yes. And see, so in that way, it's a blessing, and it doesn't feel like a blessing.
I've always thought, Brenda, why does it have to be that way? Because, in the 20 years, right, in the 20 years of working with Alcoholics Anonymous and other people, you see it over and over and over again. And it almost seems like I always thought, how can I break that cycle? How can I stand on my soapbox and tell people that this is not the way? And there's just no way. I mean, it's almost like an evolution in itself that people need to get to that point to get up and then be an example for other people. That's the soapbox, right? Not to do it.
And we live in a dual world where there's good and there's bad.
Yeah.
And so there's stress and there's peace. And we don't live with one and without the other until we do so much work that we've arrived at that nature that's unshakable. And I haven't arrived at it yet, but I am not a crazy person like I used to be.
Well, and you mentioned in your book that truth is a natural stress eliminator. So how does truth play into relieving our stress? Because it seems like the tagline today is, well, it's my truth. It's my truth. And maybe everyone has their own sense of truth, but there has to be one real truth, doesn't there? Or not?
Yeah, of course there is, because my truth would, if I use those words, that's going to be different to your truth. So then where is it? No,
Yeah.
I agree 100%. There's one truth, and there's many ways to discover what the truth is. So, for example, one of my favorite ways to relieve myself of a belief system, an ideology, any of that, is I notice I have an upset. So let me use an example for you. So if I wanted my husband to do something and he didn't do it, and then I feel upset, then I sit down and quietly ask myself, so what is it in my unconscious mind that I'm gaining by him not doing that? And guess what the answer was? Well, I matter.
Yeah.
So what's causing the upset is my belief system that I matter. It draws towards me people who do things that I will perceive as showing me that I don't matter. And then I will overreact to prove, oh, yes, I do.
Well, that plays into judgment too, right? Isn't that, if you boil that down, isn't that about judgment? You're judging another person's belief system or their direction.
Yes. And more importantly, I would say, is that if I have an upset, who's upset? It's me. So no matter what anybody's doing, if I'm upset, it's my job to self-regulate myself back to my good nature.
And not prove you're right? Or pack that resentment.
Well, it dissolves it, because resentment actually isn't natural to us. We don't ever feel natural when we feel resentful. We feel resentful. That's how we know we're out of our nature, and we can use something, any strategy. Even Todd, yours, you don't have to be in bed to say what you say to bring yourself into a good position. You can do it all day long. It's a great strategy.
That word pops into my mind all the time. And if that song comes on the radio, feeling groovy, I mean, it just it puts me in the spirit. I'm right there right now.
But Brenda, I think some of the more powerful words that you say in your book is you talk about our inner state and that we can shine inside despite what might be going on outside. And so can you talk a little bit about what's a strategy to find our shininess? Because, yes, when you've been beat down by the world in so many ways, and I know that that's probably not, again, what you're saying is that's probably not in our natural state, but that's what our eyes are seeing on the outside because we've lost this feeling of our natural state. But when we get to that point, it's hard to feel like we have value. It's hard to feel like there is worth inside of us. And shiny, no, it's pretty dull, rusted, and, So how do are there strategies you have in your book that help us to spit shine our insides again?
Next word.
Every one of the 100 of them, Jackie. So can I share a couple?
Yes, please do.
So Tusky, when he goes to Paris with his crew, he's a little bit clumsy, that elephant, and he knocks over the Eiffel Tower. And
That's big.
Yes. Yeah. And his crew, he says to himself, bless me. And the crew says, you can't say bless me when you knock over one of the most famous towers in the world. And so he takes the opportunity to explain that the mistake is already done. So now I get to decide if I want to give everyone else and myself grief or grace. Because there's magic in the message, I matter more than my mistake. And then, of course, part 2 is to make it right, because we actually feel better when we make our mistake right versus hiding it. We don't feel good hiding it or denying it, and we don't feel good justifying it. How do you know that? You just check and see, how am I feeling when I deny or make an excuse for my mistake? So anyway, Tusky, he understands this and shares it. And so he raises his trunk, and he calls all the elephants in the Paris Zoo and all the ants in the city, and they come and help him put it back. That's part 2, is making it right. And the way I learned this blessing mistakes was, I was driving my dad's too big truck in his too small corral, trying to get 2 cows up into a chute so he could give a shot of penicillin to one who had pneumonia. And I put a dent in the truck. And when I showed him, he opened his arms wide to me, and so I could walk into his arms for a hug. And he said, it doesn't matter a particle. And on that day, I learned how to give myself and others grace, not grief, when a mistake is made.
Wow, that's a really powerful message for parents, because I think, and again, I'm just thinking off the top of my head, but if what you're saying is that we've lost our natural selves, then that bleeds into our parenting. And so if we're not parenting from a natural place, we are influencing our kids more than we perhaps can imagine. And what I see that being shown in that we react to what our kids do, or to what they say, or don't do. We want them to be smart. We want them to be academically successful. We want them to have a great life afterwards. And sometimes we put so much pressure on them for those things that when they do make a mistake, it's like, what did you do? Instead of handling it with grace and saying, I love that line, you matter more than the mistake. That in itself, I think if parents just started saying that alone, it would make a humongous difference in the dynamic of their home, wouldn't it? I mean, yeah. I mean, same thing with kids. And kids sometimes get disappointed in their parents too, and the actions their parents takes. If we can all get in that sense of grace that, it's not the mistake that matters. It's already done. Like you say, now let's just fix it. But I want you to be okay. Right. That's really powerful,
that's true.
Brenda.
That's so true, because well-being is our goal, even though we don't notice it, or we don't think of it in those terms, because, we go to work and we hope what we get from work will deliver us well-being. We call a friend. We hope that conversation will deliver us well-being. We teach our kids something. We hope it will deliver all of us well-being. And so I think what's happened is we forgot that we're invested in our own well-being and what really causes it.
Yeah.
And once we find the cause, well, I feel like the masters I've studied under, in my experience, is that I now understand the cause and the cure for stress. And did you notice, this is something that surprises me, is that kids, when they have a temper tantrum, they're just like us, exactly. Our temper tantrum is modified, of course, right? But it's exactly the same thing. And I made reference to it earlier, that we'd like to dissolve our anger before it detonates. But in this day and age, we've started to use anger as a manipulation and a strategy to get what we want. So you can't put a lid on lava. You just can't, as I mentioned. It's going to go. It will. So what would you do? Like, if you want to help your child, so this is to your point, Jackie, be what you want your child to be that. And then your child will, if you model it, they follow it. If you talk to them about it without modeling it, they won't do it.
Yeah. Do as I say, not as I do.
That kind of thing. So
yeah, that's what I tell parents all the time, is like, they say, my kid doesn't talk to me. I'm like, well, they learned it from you. I mean, honestly, if your kid is not, if they're not conversing with you the way you want, it's because they learned how to do it by watching you. And so how can you increase your ability to converse better with them?
Exactly right. Be what you want your kids to be. That's a really simple solution, but then we have to relearn how to. So, like, for example, the temper tantrum thing, we still have temper tantrums, right? So I have a dunce cap in my office, and I stick it on my head every time I get angry, because what I noticed, I started watching myself when I was angry, like observing, awareness about what is this anger doing. So I would notice the first thing I would get is that I get angry, then I'd be irrational. And so I realized, well, that is, I'm a dunce. And I was reading Louise Hay's book, and that's exactly what she said, is something to the effect that I'm paraphrasing, that if you stay angry, that you're kind of a dunce. So anyway, I made myself a dunce cap. And I remember a couple of years ago, I was mad for 1 minute, and I happened to glance into my office, there my dunce cap was sitting. And that was enough to dissolve the anger. I went, oh my gosh, this is just ridiculous. And I could just feel it just dissolve. So with practice, these things will dissolve. But here's the key. Why? Why do they dissolve? Because they're not natural to you. So, and for kids, like say you have them in the grocery store and they start to have a meltdown. So I recommend for moms, you do Kegels. Why? Because you don't want to engage in that. You don't need two crazy people in a store, right? You don't want to engage. Or for men, baseball stats, silently recite those, or silently sing your favorite song. Anything to keep you, it's not that you're disrespecting the child, but to keep you from engaging in it, because once you engage in it, they think that's the way to be. And you
validate it, yeah.
Yeah, you'll feel upset and they'll continue with their upset. Now, after the tantrum, we tell our kid code parents, you tell the child, you love the child, and you're not crazy about the tantrums because they feel so awful and you care about their well-being. This is just simply the truth.
I think it was Marianne Williamson in her book, A Return to Love. And this has stayed with me once I read it, is there's only two ways that people converse with me. It's either love or it's a call for love. And when you begin to recognize those and you recognize it as a call for love, then that's that person. This has worked wonders for me in my repair shop with customers, because it's hard to do business without at least upsetting someone, right? And when they come in and they're really upset and things didn't work out right, you can instantly sense that this is a call for love, and you just return that love. And it was profound when I started to practice this, because it diffused the situation right now. Done. It was really amazing. And I think that's exactly what you're describing.
Exactly.
Well, so then, Brenda, do you have strategies for when your kids are arguing with each other? How do you use that situation without letting them, you don't want to take away their ability to speak freely about what's frustrating them or bothering them. You want your kids to be able to feel like that's something I can do, but you also don't want it to get hurtful to the other person, right? So what do you do in a situation where they are arguing with each other?
3 strategies there. One is to, the first thing is one at a time, they're told together, you both get to tell your story, but don't talk over each other, and give them a timer if you want, and ask them to be concise about how they're feeling. And then the strategy I love is I am that, where our family does this all together. As if one person says, the other person was rude to me, we all immediately close our eyes and feel where I was rude. Again, as I mentioned earlier, it dissolves the rudeness that's stored inside of us, and it brings the energy of the home back to reasonable. And then number 3 is we tell each other what we're grateful for in that other person. And if the child has a need, what is the need, and can we provide it, or does the child need to provide it for themselves?
And that takes, I think in your book, you referred to, that takes about 15 minutes, right? You spend 15 minutes with this process and it instantly diffuses, and then the kids are playing again, right? Exactly
right. And for us, Todd, it doesn't take 15 minutes anymore. It takes maybe 5, and that's for all of us to do the whole process.
Right.
Wow.
Oh my goodness, ladies, we have about 5 minutes left. This hour has just flown by. And Brenda, I want to make sure we give you time. You have some free programs that parents can check out on your website that takes them through the kid code. Do I understand that correctly?
Yeah, that's correct. So, but first I want to say, parents, you're doing a good job.
Totally.
You're doing a good job because you're trying. And with the help of people like Jackie and Todd and their books, you can make such a huge difference in your life and in your kids' life in such a short time. And yeah, you can find more information if you're interested on my website, thekidcode.ca. And not all of the strategies are taught as classes, as courses, but there's some that are free. They're for teachers, parents.
Oh, wow. I can imagine that this book would be totally helpful. In today's nutty world with schools, teachers would glean from this information.
Yeah, well, I was invited to teach teachers at their Alberta conference, and two of them, two different organizations in Alberta for teachers. And yeah, I remember Jack Canfield said to me, when you talk to teachers, tell them I would have written this book exactly the same way for you. So yeah, so there's free resources there. There's an hour video teaching some of the strategies they can use in the class. I'm also looking for a school that would like to work with me. I'll provide all the books for free on bully-proof yourself and your kids, because I've landed on how to dissolve what's inside of a person that attracts a bully. Yeah. And so if anyone is interested in that, I'm very happy to do that. And the courses are, you can take one in the time it takes to have a coffee break.
Nice.
You're doing such great work in the world. This is just truly amazing. I hope you come back on the show, because especially when the new book comes out about the elephant, I want to know so much more. I can't wait for that book to come out. Jackie and I have a friend that wrote a book very similar, but she didn't quite have the strategy. So Rebecca's book, right?
Yeah. The hippo and the bird. Bird and the hippo.
The bird and the hippo. Yeah. Very cool.
Yeah.
We only have about 4 minutes left, Brenda. Is there one last message that you would like to convey to our listeners, or one thought or idea that you could share with us?
Make sure you give them your website too, Brenda.
Okay. So remember that when you make a parenting mistake, remember it's really important that you be really kind to yourself and you say, I matter more than this parenting mistake. And then you make the mistake right. If that means apologizing, replacing something, whatever it means to make it right, you'll hold yourself in good stead, and you'll teach your kids that we are going to go through life and make many mistakes. You know, that joke, I've made mistakes so many times, I'm going to make a few more because it was so much fun.
Right.
So not that all of them are fun, but yeah, so really be kind to yourself as parents. You're doing the most important job on the planet, and invest in yourself as parents, because, you know, if you go to work, there's a manual you get to read and you understand the job, and you know very well just after having kids that there isn't a manual. And so Jackie and Todd and all their resources and every parenting coach or teacher's resources will help you so much. There's help for you. You are not alone. That's what I'd like to do.
I think we need to make a correction, Brenda, there hasn't been a manual, but now there is.
Right.
Yeah.
Right?
I sure hope
the kid code. Yeah. I mean, just from our discussion today and me pre-reading the book, I was like, wow. I mean, this has the ability to change our complete direction. And I think it's timely, right? We have this, we're evolving, kids are evolving, and they're so sharp, but yet they're running into roadblocks that they don't know how to deal with. And here comes this book called The Kid Code that helps parents get them through those, I think, is what I'm getting.
And Brenda, would you agree that the changes that need to take place on the planet aren't going to happen from the top down?
Yeah.
They're going to happen from inside of families first. Would you agree with that?
And that's where we want it to happen, because we want to feel that joyfully harmless nature that we have, that's creative and loving.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
That's about all we have time for today. Thank you, Brenda, for coming on the show. Did you have fun today?
I love it here.
Well, I hope you'll come back. Jackie, it was just a great joy to have you on the show, and I think that this is going to be timeless. And
I could talk with you all day. Thank you.
I'm sure you could. Yeah.
That's about it. Like I said, that's about all the time we have for today. I hope you enjoyed the show. My really big hope is that you'll tell somebody about the show. lifemasteryradio.net or .com. You can find out more information. Lastly, please, please, please make it a great day, because it is all about choice. Bye-bye for now.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you for tuning in to Life Mastery Radio. Join Todd Allen and Jackie Bailey and their guests of leading authors, speakers, coaches, and entrepreneurs weekly at 10 a.m. Pacific. Learn to live a peaceful life with intentional mastery through stories and messages to support your well-being and most evocative dreams. Visit their website, www.lifemasteryradio.com. Join their mailing list and be notified about upcoming guests. That's lifemasteryradio.com.